Testing audio, 1, 2, 3. Let's see. You are very fast, Hugo. Literally just hit that start button. Okay, audio's going through. So, I'm just gonna go over a few things today. My latest CRF boat on the Scimitar, the changes I've made, especially since the anniversary event, because we've gotten some very nice consoles and stuff since then. And then I'm gonna go over the new Escorts, and the traits, and the consoles on them. So just to breeze through this, because I imagine most will be watching this once it goes up later as a video anyways. The Terran DHC, but the big change for the forward weapons was I swapped over from dual heavy cannons to dual cannons, and I swapped back to Coalition Disruptor dual cannons. What I was finding was the difference between pen and like crit D and damage is significantly less than it used to be. So with these Coalition Disruptors, it's a gamble on if you're going to get a proc, and chances are in a map like Hive Space Elite where your targets have how much HP, you're eventually going to get a proc somewhere that'll help you out. A run I just did about 15 minutes ago, actually, I had a proc on one of the Borg pickles, so that actually was a pretty decent buff against that. Pen just doesn't hold the value it did months ago for me because the Cold-Hearted trait gives us 50 armor pen on anything we're shooting, so yeah. Deflector, it's obviously one of the colony ones. I've got this set to EPG, just so I can use this on some other builds where I use a little bit of exotic stuff. Still the competitive engines and the competitive shield, specifically the one that procs off of hitting stuff like rapid fire or fire at will. And then the Singularity Core is the Elite Fleet Spire one. It's one of the Thoron infused. And yeah, Hugo, that is the big thing, is it going to proc or not? And it's a gamble you take, but I'm fine using these damage ×4 crit D damage weapons. And then the two turrets, both damage 4 coals, and then the heavy turret for the counter command set. Devices, I don't think I need to go over that. The discovery weapons are good. I think that in a very high-end build where you still have multiple people running coalitions in a team, I don't think they're going to beat that. If I were running the sensor-linked on this build, those sensor-linked weapons, I'd be running 6 of them, so I would be getting 12% crit severity. You know, that's nice, but if I compare that to the probability that I'll have 1 or 2 coalition procs in a run against a big target, I'm going to take the coalitions just because the gamble, there's a higher potential there. But that's just me. I'm still running the flagship 3-piece with the timeline stabilizer also, because like in Hive Space Elite, you're always going to take a little bit of damage. Something's going to hit you with how many mobs are in there. And all of the consoles, like I'm using the TAC one, the Inch one, and then the timeline stabilizer. I'm not using the Science Scimitar console because that's trash. But this 3-piece, everything here does something valuable. Yeah. Well, you can get some procs to go off with this new heavy weapon they added. Do I have it in my inventory? No, I don't. We'll get to that in a little bit. But that thing will actually get some procs to go off. Then I'm running the Point Defense Bombardment Warhead console. This is off the NX. It does like 1 or 2k DPS, but the important part is it's part of the console set with the DPRM, which everyone knows and loves, which is basically another TAC console worth of Cat 1 damage. Hello, Ronnie. And then the new console additions are the Domino off the Bajoran ship. So the issue with this in Rapid Fire is, with Rapid Fire, you're at most going to be hitting one target every 4 to 5 seconds. So you're looking at only getting 10 to 15 seconds uptime off this thing. Really, it's hard to do any better than that. But that's still a very potent buff, and I would use this on any AoE build, like a Fall build, Scatter Volley, even like a Science Exotic build. I would be using this because this is just such a good damage buff console. Then I have the Multi-Conduit Energy Relay. This is just for that Counter Command 2-piece. You guys should know that. I've run that on so many different builds. 3 Locator Disruptor consoles. But the other big addition here, which is a recent console that I think a lot of people have overlooked, is the obfuscation screen. This is off the Lobai ship in the Discovery lockbox, the Walker class. So you can read it there. It does have an issue where if you're taking damage when you activate it, it will ignore Zal and just kill you. But if you hit it while your Zal is triggered and it's on that 8 seconds of you being immune to die, it'll keep you alive. But when this thing ends, for every second that you were in it, when you come out of it, you'll get a buff for 120% Cat 2 all damage. So in HSC, what I'm doing in a lot of these runs now is I hit this at the start when we're in that countdown for us to actually go in and engage in the match. So that's, 20 seconds of damage buff right off the bat I get, and that's like 2 alphas. That's a huge damage buff. And it also helps if I have my invincible trigger when we're at the Queen and she pops feedback pulse. While my invincible is triggered, I hit this console and I stay in it until her feedback pulse is done, because it heals you up while you're in it. It's a pretty nice console that I think a lot of really not taking a look at. While we're here, duty officers, 3 technicians, crit DDoF and crit H, and a Nickel Space Warfare Specialist. I think in that 240k run I did with this in HSC, I had a Agent Rule on instead of the crit H one, but if you're in there with a good team, you don't need the heals as bad. You've either got a threat tank or enough DPS that you're just ripping apart the hive. Intel primary, strategic secondary, and the skill tree. This is on the STO builds post for this build, so from the earlier version, nothing's changed here. I need to change some stuff, but I'm too lazy. Traits are the same also, except for context is for kings. I forget what I dropped. It might have been ablative shell, but this is one from the Discovery lockbox where it's a buff if you're taking damage in or not taking damage in. So if you've got a tank on the team, you're getting a nice little damage buff. The Starship trait wise, pretty standard for these rapid fire builds. I've got this posted mostly on Reddit also. But the big change since December has been cold-hearted. This is why I'm not really running pen weapons anymore. I've still got some builds that use pen weapons, but with this and TAC Better and Beta on the builds, it's not as much of a need. Just whatever I'm shooting, that's a massive debuff. Well, you can get the purple technicians completely free from a DOF chain. Do I, forget, it's the Betran cluster colonization thingy? I haven't done that in ages, but you can get free versions of the purples from that. If that's what you're talking about there. Or yeah, it is. I didn't see the tech off. I just assumed. It's been a long day. So, another part of Cold Hearted here is it is a control debuff on your target, basically. So if you go and use the controlled countermeasures trait, this is a temporal rep trait, it'll actually give you a damage buff versus the target you're shooting at. So anything that you have Cold Hearted applied to, you can use this and get that 7% damage buff. Ronnie, you need a sub-nuke to clear the feedback off the queen, clearly, otherwise you gotta wait it out. You can't just hit science team to be immune from the feedback. I wish it were that easy, though. And the rest of the traits are all common. Bridge officer layout, pretty much the same as the last time I talked about the build. So I think that wraps up just that portion covering that build change. So let's swap over to one of these new escorts and see what terrible build I have on this. So I did get the full 9-pack. I'm just waiting for them to go through and fix the Andorian stuff. Like I went and even bought the tier 5 bundle and I used an ultimate tech upgrade on the wing cannon thing and then was very sad to find out I couldn't actually, you know, use it on that thing. So a lot of the T5 consoles don't work on it also because they rely on that. So that overall is a bit sad. One thing I'll say though here, you know, about these ships is they're not as good as the other pilot ships. So just to get that off the bat, these are not as good performance-wise as like the you know, the ones we got what, almost 2 years ago. Yeah, not yet. They will fix that. Yeah. I saw that on Reddit. I think it was Borticus saying that. I was sad, you know, but they'll take care of it. I would say if you're a fan of those Andorian ships, those are definitely worth picking up. But when it comes to the traits, well, let's talk about the traits here quick. So first thing I did the other day when I got these ships is I went and leveled 2 of them up in Argala. Now I gotta find the traits. I really wish they would give us like an alphabetical list. I mean, look at this. It's just such a mess. Promise of Ferocity is this tactical one, okay? They pre-nerfed it down to 4%, and, you know, all that. This trait is okay, but for a build like this rapid fire build, I ain't got anywhere to fit that. This trait is good for people that don't have like some of the lockbox low buy traits, but if you've got the lockbox and low buy traits, this trait ain't worth slotting. It's actually a bit sad, but it is what it is. It's a 20% cat 2 for weapons, and it is not enough to beat out the better ships. That is one point with the people that were hating in the Reddit thread that people were saying it, you know, nerf it now before it gets nerfed later. Is it was a very good trait before. It's still a very good trait. It's just now it's not necessarily competing with some of the better low buy lockbox traits. But if you're a player that doesn't want to buy low buy lockbox traits or, you know, spend that massive amount, this is certainly a good C store trait for a weapon build. Or, well, any build using weapons. Hopefully you're using weapons. If not, I'm worried. Um, I will say quickly, I do not have the engineering trait because that one is complete trash. Like there's just no good way to put it. That trait, it's something you're not going to run. It does electrical damage to targets affected by your engineering abilities. So for stuff like what is it? Like if I hit someone with endothermic inhibitor beam, it would do a little bit of electrical damage. It's nothing. It's complete trash, waste of a slot. It's too low, and there's too few things that would proc it. The real highlight, though, of the traits is this improved gravity well. This trait, I don't really think we have to, say much about it. This trait is just simply good. Improved gravity well. It's if you're a science player that is running an exotic boat using Gravwell at all, you're probably going to want to get this trait. Hello, everyone. The trail from this ship. Okay. So this terrible looking thing, I am not a fan of this design. I'll just say it looks really weird. But when you start moving, it spins and puts out these little particles. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Um, what? No, you can only. Based on what they said, this trait will only affect the primary gravity well, so it won't affect like the aftershock ones. But it basically takes gravity well to its global cooldown and makes it last pretty much all the time. It's really stupid on the elite maps. I already did a run with someone using it, and it's just stupid. It's a really good trait. And Promise of Ferocity, as I said, this is Promise of Ferocity is the one off the tactical version. The improved gravity well is the one off the science. The one off the engineering you don't have to worry about because it's just complete trash. But Promise of Ferocity is good for people that don't have better options. And Improved Gravity Well is, I would argue, a must slot for any science players that are using Gravity Well. Outside of CCA. Because in CCA, your run's not going to last 40 seconds most of the time if you're in a proper EPG boat. Okay, so let's take a look at the consoles. These wonderful things. I've got this thing set up weird. I'm going to swap this over to Scatter Volley build quick, and then we'll show off some of the consoles actually in action in a random patrol or something. That'll be a better example. But I will say right now, like, my initial impression of the consoles is that they're not that great. There's going to be better consoles that you can slot. And while I'm heading to Japori, everyone's favorite map, we'll take a look at these consoles and their sets. So the set bonus, the two pieces plus 10% flight speed and accuracy, that's okay. I mean, could be better. Then the three-piece reduces the cooldown of the consoles all down to a minute. And it buffs the wing torpedo platforms to use rank 2 of high yield and spread instead of rank 1. But here's the catch. In order to get that torpedo console to use the torp spread 1 or 2, depending on how many of the consoles you slot, you have to have a torp spread 1 or any rank of torp spread on your build. The heavy weapon is not the best heavy weapon ever. I'm not sure if it beats the railgun, but I will say one perk to it is that the 10% chance it has for the 3 different procs results in you actually seeing some procs go off. So we're gonna head into Japori now. The ship is small. Really small. I don't have any game sound on because I don't play with game sound. As soon as Japori loads. So the heavy weapon has a decent effect in my trays. I'm gonna use the wing platforms now. So when I use a torp spread, they'll fire out torp spreads also. You can see the little torps come from them. They follow me around, and because I have the 3-piece on, they'll be there the entire time. I'm gonna have to knock this up too late. I'm killing these things too fast. Yep, you see them firing their blue quantums or whatever? They both just fire them. I'm gonna back out and knock this up to elite because these things are dying too fast for me to show the consoles. As far as I know, this heavy weapon originally did phaser, disruptor, and plasma damage, but then they changed it over to radiation. It's weird that they did that. I would rather have had that, but it is what it is. I like the little torpedo platform console. But it's the best of them, I would say. The issue is it needs a buff in its survivability. Because if you're too close to enemies and you get in a warp core breach, they're just gonna die. Okay, got them around me. Actually, where did they go? I think they're dead already. Yes, I think I lost the wing platforms. Okay, let's use the, wait, I can't use this unless I'm far away. That's right. This thing will, like, pull targets towards you or something. Like, it's a wormhole or something. You see, it pulls them all in towards me. This is the console off the science one, if I recall. Gateway trap. The engineering console doesn't do much. It's just marking a target and doing a little dot. Yeah, the platforms just die immediately most of the time from what I've seen. Like, look, I deployed them and they're dead already. Or not, no, but, oh. One of them's almost dead. They just need to be completely untargetable. Look at this. They take damage too fast. The engineering consoles are just doing next to nothing to these targets. Literally 600 to 700 damage with each dot. The engineering console just... Ugh. So the science console is fun to use. Wouldn't be good in like ISA probably, and the Torp platform one is the really nice one. But I can say that if I were doing a like serious build, I don't know if I would use all of these consoles. Like certainly I wouldn't be using the engineering one because it's just doing next to nothing. The only benefit to really running all three consoles is that you get a cooldown reduction and you're able to have the winged platforms up the entire time. That's the only benefit. And even then, the Torp platforms in the ISA I did yesterday were only around like 1 to 3k DPS. So these Torp platforms doing next to nothing for you actually, and yeah. Yeah, the damage from that is extremely low. Yeah, Tractor Beam 1 levels, I guess you could compare it to. And this Alliance Hyper Cannon, it doesn't beat the Sheller. Which, for those that don't know, the Sheller is currently the top DPS, overall DPS, experimental weapon that you can get, and it's off the Zankethi Shukden Escort. Like, okay, there it is. The experimental protomatter waste Sheller. The reason it's so much better is because it splits its damage and it deals more damage as the target is directly in front of you. It's pretty nice, and it has a lower recharge time. But anyhow, let's go do something else. Pug something. See how this does, and a cure. Cure or Kittimer, whatever goes first. I've got one of these I'm working on one of my feds, but I'm not gonna show that until I can have the build like fully done with all the Andorian stuff. Set it up with phasers and all that. Have I parsed the Voice of Prophets? No. Not myself, but others have, and the basic judgment from everyone is it does like larger spikes, but it has twice the cooldown or recharge time, so it doesn't beat the Sheller for raw DPS performance. But it does have much larger max 1 hits than everything else so far. The best is that Sheller. The experimental one off the Zankethi Shukden. It is the absolute best. Though, if I recall, what I did here was the voice is not too far behind. The voice is parsing better than the railgun. The one other downside with the voice is the lack of shield pen. As soon as this cure pops. Was it cure? Yeah. And with this, I don't think it's, worth, running a Torp spread necessarily, but You have to run a torp spread if you want to buff up the little wing torpedo platforms. And the other thing I noticed is that even when I activated torp spread, they only fired their torp spread when I fired mine. I need to test and see if I can get away without running a torp but still having the torp spread on the build. Let's see if it goes through this time. Yep. Hopefully I don't have too much background. I had to leave the filters off for it to not pick up my voice. Oh, sphere dead already? I guess so. Leave that guy clean that up. They're both dead because of a warp core breach. That easy. Let's go clean up this stuff. Wasn't far enough away to use that console. Guess while they're doing that, waiting for buffs to pop up. These also are not the most tanky ships ever, obviously, with them being such small little things. I guess that console misfired. Misfires never happen in this game. Nope, they fired without me firing. Okay, good. So the wing cannons are pretty fun, but that's the only console that really is notable here. I mean, the gravel little gateway trap thing does okay, but I mean, when it misfires like we just saw it do, it's really not of any use. We just need, misfires to not happen. Has anyone got any questions about these ships or anything? There's really not much to them. I mean, they're subpar to the previous options. The traits are OP. The consoles are fun, but performance-wise, they suck. Pretty much standard for consoles and ships. They have a weird animation when you move, at least for the Romulan ones. Yeah, the consoles are exactly the same across all factions. I don't even know if I'm gonna upgrade the hyper cannon over here. I mean, I might, but it's okay, but it's not better than what I have right now. I think all my phaser cannons are on another character still. Yeah, they're all the same. I was gonna make a very newbie build here and put every last Andorian console on the ship and do a build with it. But you wanna see the bridge? Let's go take a look. Yeah. Well, you just gotta wait until Thursday. Though that is something that QA should have seen very fast, because you figure with the ships, you would have checked to see compatibility with the previous versions. Okay. These the only two rooms? Yeah. These are very boxy rooms. That's pretty much it. There's not much to go over with, really, with these Andorian ones. You can't really fully mess with yet because they gotta fix them. And the traits are pretty good, and the ships themselves suck, performance-wise. Only thing really, there's nothing really left to show. I mean, it's a bunch of KDF and Karat. Could go shoot some people for you guys. Why not? There's nothing else to show with the ships, so I'm just gonna swap over and shoot some people in Karat. If anyone has any other questions about the ships, just ask. I used to use Shadowplay, but I've been having issues with that for the last few months, so I've been using OBS. It's a free program. It's what I'm using to stream this even. Usually for the audio recordings, I then use Audacity. I need to do some more videos. I've been lazy these last few weeks. Been busy with school. nothing outside of those few changes for me. I haven't found anything. Tenor has been running his. Demetrius has. I think we're all pretty close to each other. I just had one really good run in HSC that got me my 240k run. There's 2 dead feds. There's not actually many people running the CRF builds because of the high cost. They're just, I mean, you gotta have a trait that costs 1.5 billion. It's super expensive. Using the black alert trait on me. I gotta defend these boar. I can't allow them to be killed. There's also a few DPSers and a few people that detest the rapid fire builds. There's a few that feel that they're a bit toxic to gameplay, and I'll admit, in ISA they are pretty bad if you're trying to do a run with people that are, you know, trying to actually get a parse. It's bad. Placate. Just placates, man. I lost my DPRM and Protomatter. This is a fun console right here, that obfuscation screen. I can sit here for 20 seconds. They can't do a thing. They can wait for me to come out. That's it. Gonna kill this one punch guy again. Gotta get away from their vape. Oh, never mind. Grat reset. I remember what I'm doing on this thing. Here's my impulse console. I don't have an impulse console on. Impulse burst. PvP in this game gets a lot of hate, but it's a nice bit of fun. Where's that one punch guy? Trying to do side crap. Oh, that's a good target too. An actual serious target. Need the rapid fire trait on this character. I wish that stuff was account wide so bad. We got multiple people on him and he's tanking it a bit. A Fed that is decently set up at least. Can't target him.